There is no remedy for the disease known as sense craving other than the firm abandonment of desire for pleasure. No medicines, no pilgrimage, no mantras are of any use. We're being directed by our senses all the time. But there's actually an emotional need, psychological and emotional needs, which are being driven through these senses. And I think more of that will be said later on. But it's interesting to experiment with how we're driven through our senses. This sounds like one of these standard teachings which we might gloss over. I mentioned in the last video, just trying to walk down the street, keeping your focus at a point 6 feet in front of you on the ground, and noticing how your senses are pulled, mainly senses of sight and hearing, wanting to find out who's walking by, what's on offer in the shops, what that sound is, what is it that we're looking for, what is it that we're drawn to. Whatever it is, it's drawing us away from our own sense of being. We're looking to engage with something. We're looking for a buzz of some sort. If you haven't got a sense of your own being though, then there isn't much you can do. But if you've got a sense of your own being, if you can be still in yourself, then you can work with this. You can start to see how the senses tug at us, how the senses distract us, how the senses actually siphon off our sense of being. Some people might argue otherwise, that the senses give you a sense of richness, a sense of being. But that's only momentarily. But what about being established in that sense of being? I often feel it's about music. The best music is the music that leads you to stillness. The best music is music that says you no longer need to listen to music. The best art is art that points us beyond art. I have been waylaid by these senses as robbers waylay a lone traveller in a dense forest. These senses are filthy and they lead to great misfortune. They generate greed. They are difficult to overcome. They bring about the rebirth. They are the enemies of the men of wisdom and the friends of the foolish. They are resorted to by the fallen ones, and they are shunned by the noble men. They roam about freely in the darkness of ignorance like goblins. They are empty and valueless, and like dry bamboo, fit only to be burnt. Lord, you are the sole refuge of the supplicant. You are his Redeemer. Pray, save me from this terrible ocean of samsara by your enlightening admonitions. Devotion to sages like you in this world is the surest destroyer of sorrow. This celestial is like somebody who's got a habit, a drug habit, and is totally disgusted with the habit, but isn't quite sure how to kick it. He wants to kick it, he wants to get rid of this habit. He realizes how awful it is, but he's not quite sure how to proceed. So he's turned to Bhusunda for instruction. Bhusunda replied, "You are indeed blessed, O Celestial, that you are spiritually awake and you wish to uplift yourself. Your intelligence is fully awakened. Hence I feel that you will understand my instruction effortlessly. Please listen to what I'm about to say. What I say is born of long experience." So he's not going to feed the Celestial standard teaching. It's going to come from the heart. What appears to us as I and the other is in truth not yourself. But when you look for these, you cannot see them. The conviction that neither I, nor you, nor the world exists is conducive to happiness, not to sorrow. So I, you, the world, these are all notions that we've formed and learnt to believe in as some kind of fundamental reality. The origin of ignorance cannot be determined. It's the ignorance of the fact that all this is notional. Even after considerable inquiry, we are unable to determine whether the world appearance arises from ignorance, or ignorance is born of the world appearance. The two are in fact two aspects of the same thing. Whatever exists is the one infinite consciousness of Brahman. The world appearance is like a mirage, of which it can be said it is, and it is not. Does a mirage exist? Do ideas have existence? They're like forces. The world of physics, of physical science, we tend to think of as material, solid. But it's far from solid. Not only does matter dissolve into energy, but everything that affects matter are forces. Forces are non-physical. They have a physical effect, but you cannot see a force. It's beyond the senses. Forces like gravity are beyond the senses. There aren't even any machines for detecting this force. We can see the effects of it on scales and things. These forces are they've got no physical existence whatsoever, and yet all of physics depends on them. All of physics depends on non-physical forces, and yet we assume physics is about material reality, don't we? It's not. No, it's not. We shouldn't tell ourselves this. Don't take my word from it. Let's get some physicists' points of view. Well, no matter how you look at it, reality is based not on matter. It's based on non-materiality. It's based on notions. It's based on feelings. So notions of I, you, the world, they're all notions. And we can say they either exist or they don't. They're beyond. Do forces exist? I think we'd say yes. But forces have less substance than a poem. So we need to really move away from this idea that we have of a material world. And we do this by inquiry. Really look into what you consider to be materiality. Inquire into it. Because we really have to get away from this idea that somehow we're living in a solid world. There's absolutely nothing solid about it. Whether you're a physicist or just from an individual point of view, consider what you understand by solidity, by materiality, by physicality. Look into it for yourself and see how real it is for yourself.